This is the refreshed Land Rover Discovery Sport. I remember I really liked the Freelander replacement when it first came out about 4 years ago. But today it's late 2019 and almost everybody offers SUVs and crossovers. Does the baby Disco have what it takes to keep up? I'll start with dimensions which haven't really changed. The car is about 2 meters wide, almost 460 centimeters long, the wheelbase is 274 centimeters and the height is 173 centimeters. Ground clearance is slightly more than 21 centimeters, and that's on the higher end of the spectrum in this segment. Looking at the Land Rover spec sheet, you'll also find wading depth up to 60 centimeters, which I am not going to put to the test, because in the pre-facelift model, I didn't even make it through some moist sand. Finding a direct competitor for the Land Rover Discovery Sport is not easy because most cars in this segment are larger. Lexus NX is the closest in terms of size, but it doesn't have the optional third row of seats. The Discovery Sport is the only premium compact SUV offering a 7-seater configuration. Now, looking at 7-seaters in the mass segment, there is the Nissan X-Trail, Peugeot 5008, Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace. Back in the day, X-Trail was even kind of off-road capable, but today it's easier to find a Tiguan with all-wheel drive. What's changed? From the outside, the biggest changes are visible in the front, where creases on the bumper have been ironed out, giving the facelifted Discovery Sport Evoque-like smoothness. In the rear, tailpipes disappeared under the bumper. The whole car now looks more like the big Discovery, but without the asymmetrical tailgate. And since we're talking tailgate, let's look inside the boot. The capacity is hard to establish because Land Rover provides the floor-to-roof figure of around 900 liters. According to my calculations, it is about 570 liters floor-to-window line, and whatever fits under the floor when there is no spare tire, so let's say about 600 liters in total. Seats in the second row have adjustable backrests, like so, and they slide back and forth just in case you order a 7-seater model, so the boot space can be further expanded. However, in the boot there is no place for the boot cover, there is not even a hook on a string like in Mercedes to lock the floor open. There is also no shopping bag hook, not even one, and the lighting is inadequate at night. In the back, legroom goes from generous to insufficient as you slide the seats forward. Options include heated seats, USB ports, AC controls, but this car doesn't have any of that. The seat splits 40-60 and the backrest splits 40-20-40. There is also an armrest with some storage and cup holders. More changes are visible in the front. There is the virtual instrument cluster, but don't worry, if you like classic analog dials, you can get those as well. There is also the 10-something inch Touch Pro infotainment system. Theoretically, it should learn my daily routine and adapt to it, but press cars, well, we usually have them for a couple of days, so there is never time to test that feature. Instead, I'd rather have working Android Auto, which should be available, but I only see a message that the system hasn't recognized my device, as it is always the case with all the JLR cars. The new infotainment system and virtual cockpit require multifunction buttons on the steering wheel. The first time I've seen those was in the Range Rover Velar a couple of years ago. Depending on the situation, the black buttons display different options. There are also cup holders, storage, wireless charger. Gone is the shelf above the glove box. It was handy, but probably negatively affected crash test results. Also gone is the rotary gear selector, and back is the regular lever. If you are wondering where the terrain response buttons have gone, fear not, because they are now hidden under one of these two temperature control wheels. So, Jaguar and Land Rover have already taught us that these can be used for seat heating and ventilation, if there is ventilation. This car doesn't have ventilation, but now there is an additional function. So if you press this button, you control the fan. if you don't like the automatic mode. And if you press this button, you control the terrain response modes or driving modes, so anything from eco to normal to auto to, what is it, snow, mud and sand. So here it is. I suppose that the JLR engineers rightly assumed that nobody in their right mind is actually going to take this thing off-road, so they hid the off-road modes away, so yeah, so you don't have to see them, you don't have to worry about them. And now let's see how this car that shouldn't be really driven off-road performs on the road. Land Rover Discovery Sport is available with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The engine lineup is mainly made up of 2-liter diesel and petrol engines with power ranging from 150 to 240 for the diesels and 200 or 249 for the petrols. The least powerful diesels come with front-wheel drive and 6-speed manual transmissions. Everything else is all-wheel drive with 9-speed auto and a mild hybrid system. There is also going to be a 3-cylinder PHEV version. In the mild hybrid or MHEV, when the driver gets off the throttle, kinetic energy is stored in a battery. Pressing the brake at speeds below 17 km per hour causes the engine to shut off, which helps reduce emissions. The mild hybrid system can boost efficiency by up to 6% and help reduce emissions by up to 8 grams of CO2 per kilometer. This sounds rather optimistic, but just like in the Range Rover Evoque, WLTP combined figure of 9 and a bit liters per 100 kilometers is hard to achieve. Actually, in the Discovery Sport, I never got below 12. That's 31 and 24 mpg Imperial. With a 67-liter tank, this means a range of less than 600 kilometers. Actually, I've driven about 400 and I've got indicated range of just 72. Moreover, the 200 horsepower petrol turbo engine is not enough to pull 1900 kilograms this car weighs. I'd suggest to go with the most powerful petrol motor or one of the more powerful diesels. Small petrol engines are not JLR's strong suit. Test drive the diesel before you make your final decision. With that in mind, there is no point discussing any dynamic aspects of this car. It's good for rolling in traffic or for long motorway cruises. As it turns out, the Land Rover Discovery Sport has great soundproofing, which is important because from the outside, this engine sounds rough. Steering is for the relaxed driver. It's best to let the driver aids do their thing and take it slow in hope you won't have to visit the gas station too often. Visibility is okay. This car gets an optional camera mounted on the roof which displays the view in the rearview mirror. It comes in handy when you're loaded up to the roof or carrying tall passengers in the back. I still have problems accommodating my eyes to different depth of field, but I do appreciate the fact this gadget eliminates the blind spot. This test car rides on the regular spring suspension. There is an optional adaptive suspension, but I don't think it's really worth the extra money because Discovery Sport will never handle like a sports car. Instead, it's better to double check the options list and make sure you choose the heated steering wheel and heated windscreen. Both make a great difference on a cold day. Following my misadventures in the pre-facelift Discovery Sport, this time I decided not to go off-roading in it. Instead, I tried my usual approach with limited traction. Prices of the facelifted Land Rover Discovery Sport start at €37,000 for the 150 horsepower front-wheel drive manual diesel. For the 200 horsepower petrol all-wheel drive automatic, you have to pay at least $43,000. This is the SE with our dynamic pack, which starts at $55,000. Add options and you get about 68 grand. For this kind of money, you can really go to town with a BMW X3. It won't have Land Rover's off-road credentials, but you'll probably go off-roading with it just as rarely as with this one. I like how the refreshed Land Rover Discovery Sport looks even more than the pre-facelift model. However, the looks and the optional third row of seats, which isn't even here, is in my opinion not enough when the market is flooded with SUVs and crossovers. And what do you think about the Land Rover Discovery Sport? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel for more reviews and give this video a thumbs up. New episodes every Friday. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.